Color mixing is an awesome way to bring some really dynamic energy to your paintings. For this project, we're going to start off with a very simple image and then divide it up by adding in various shapes and lines. In the end, you want your paper divided up into many sections. Try to avoid any spots that are too teeny tiny. You're going to start off with a paint palette of only your primary colors. That's yellow, red, and blue. You can use each of the primary colors in one section, but after that, you have to start mixing. Keep in mind that yellow is your lightest color, so add only tiny little drops of either red or blue to it. It's always easier to darken up colors, so adding little amounts of paint at a time is key. But don't be afraid to mix all three colors. Yeah, the general rule states that if you mix the primary colors, you're going to end up with grays and browns. But guess what? In all paintings, you're going to need grays and browns. It's important to learn how to mix neutrals. This is also an awesome opportunity to practice toning your paint. That's where you take something like a bright, brilliant blue and tone it by adding a little bit of its complementary color. That would be orange. When you add in just a little bit of that complementary color, it's going to give you a more realistic version of the blue. So when you're painting a sky, for example, a little bit of orange mixed into the blue is going to make the sky look authentic. Muddy colors might not be the prettiest. They might not look that great on a pop art style piece of art, but you'll be amazed at how often you need a deep dark forest green or a brownish burgundy, or just how pretty some of these interesting combinations end up looking when they're on the paper. Once you feel confident that you've color mixed as much as you possibly can with these three colors, you can now move on to the next stage, which is adding in white. Adding white is going to give us a whole new palette of colors. This is how I like to set up my palette. Now let's go over some mixing essentials. As you know, the tool we will be using to mix our paint is a paintbrush. The head of the paintbrush is where you'll find the bristles. The very tip of the head is called the tip, the toe, or the point. This is the part of the brush that will be doing the majority of the work for us. The middle of the bristles is known as the belly, and this is where our paint will be held. You really don't want to go beyond the belly, so keep that in mind as you're loading your paintbrush. Next, we have the heel, where the bristles attach to the ferrule. If nothing else, your biggest goal of the day should be to have no paint near the ferrule. And the ferrule is held in place by what's known as a crimp. This holds the ferrule and the handle together. Your other challenge is to practice holding the handle at the very end. Remember, this is a paintbrush, not a pencil. When it comes to tinting our paint, we want to remember that rule. It's easy to go dark, but it's very difficult to go back to light. So mix tiny amounts at a time. You can always add more paint if there has not been enough of a change. Now it's time for me to stop talking so you can watch me fill this paper with a bunch of different colors. Okay, so this is what the final piece looks like, but you know we're never actually done. So I'm gonna go in and clean up my lines by adding in some India ink. Other options would be to use a paint pen or go in with some black acrylic paint. The one thing we're not going to want to use is a Sharpie marker. This acrylic paint is really just going to damage the Sharpie. One idea would be to add in some black oil pastel or even chalk pastel. This step makes everything look clean and complete. Now you really can be done there. For real, you really can. But you might not be done. I decided to go in with white because I love a good highlight. Students often have a lot of questions about how and where to add highlights. This is an awesome opportunity to practice that because it really doesn't matter. I'm happy to go over highlights with each of you on an individual basis. Just let me know that you're interested. Some other options would be to paint in some patterns or designs, maybe add some words. This is really the point where you get to be creative and take this in any direction you'd like.